welcome to another edition of Turned Out a Punk. I'm your host, Damian Abraham, and once again, I am bringing you a conversation with someone who grew up listening to punk, may or may not still be involved in punk, but had their life changed by the genre in a major way. And today on the show, huge guest, one of my favorite episodes ever. It's short, so I packed it out at the end with my good buddy Chris O'Toole and I going over some of our favorite records, but trust me, this is good. Danger Ehren McGhehey of Jackass, of, anytime you play a show in Portland, he's there. He's got the camera snapping away. One of my favorite people to see and talk to. And my gosh, did it turn out to be an amazing podcast. I knew it would be, but I didn't know how good. But more on that in a second. But first, if you want to get in touch with me, you can head over and send an email to turnedoutapunkpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find me on various forms of social media at Left4Damian. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, the best way of doing that is by sending an email to that email address or going over to Facebook.com. There's a Facebook page run by my brother and show producer Tristan Abraham, and you can get the message to me. There's also a Tumblr page. There's more stuff coming. This is going to be a big year for Turned Out a Punk. Kicking it off huge with this episode, but this is it. This is our year. We got a lot of stuff to do. Got a lot of shit to take care of. So, it kicks off right now. If you'd like to support the show, the best way of doing that is by telling all your friends, writing a comment, writing a review on your podcast listening place of choice, letting your parents know about this thing, your family. We got a lot of episodes. We got a lot of episodes with a lot of different type of people. I'm sure there is a guest on this show that will appeal to just about anyone. And who knows, maybe we'll bring them into this music, get them more into the stuff that we're talking about. Maybe they just need to hear Michael Ian Black from the TV show Another Period talking about, Tim Shaw from Ensign. And we'll get an Ensign. That's how it happens. That's what it is. We're like a symbiotic kind of world, right? That we're creating right here at Turned Out a Punk. So tell everyone you know. But speaking of support, this show would not be possible without the kind, loving support of the fine folks at Vans who have said, Damian, go make your show. We just don't want you to lose any money on this thing anymore. So we're going to give you a little bit of money so it's not out of pocket, but book whoever you want, do what you do, and have fun doing it. So I say thank you, Vans. Thank you so much for doing that and supporting me on this thing. And, I'm going to be doing more Vans stuff for them this year, so probably see you around there at some of these live podcasts. As I said, it's going to be a big year for Turned Out a Punk this year. We got a lot of stuff to do. Speaking of a lot of stuff to do, we got a lot of stuff to get to on this show this week. This week on the show, Danger Ehren of Jackass. Now, I tell him in the episode that the first few times that I met him, I honestly thought he was just like a super cool, nice person that came to our shows and took photographs. I had no connection in my mind that this was also the guy from Jackass, who I, watched countless times. Jackass to me was a really amazing moment in pop culture. It had huge, far-reaching implications, as we talk about on the show. I think far greater implications, ramifications, I'm sure if you're not a fan, than people necessarily give it credit for. Like, it is really the moment where the lens got turned back onto the people and they realized that they could create their own wild content. Like, obviously, America's Funniest Home Videos and Candid Camera before that. Like, this idea that anyone can be on TV and anyone can be doing silly stuff. But, like, Jackass is really, like, where, that means of production of moments of humiliation, ridicule, pain that were happening accidentally on shows like America's Funniest Home Videos were taken into the hands of the artists. And yes, I said artists. We talk about this. He defines what he does as an art, and I can't take that away from him at all. Like, there's plenty of people that would not define what I do as art, so I'm not going to criticize anyone else's definition. And also, I've seen performance art. This is like performance art taken to a accessibility and pop culture reach that, I don't know, I don't think any performance art ever reached, unless you consider, politics and some of those things performance art in their own way, which, that's definitely art breaking out of the confines of what is art into a whole new realm. But we're not going to get into that this week. We're just going to get pretentious enough with Jackass, because that's what we do on this show. We take things that other people cast aside and we hopefully recast them in a different light. And so Jackass was something that, I watched that phenomena unfold firsthand and was along for the ride the whole way. As like someone that was a little bit older, but someone that was also like watching all these guys from these skateboard magazines that I had known, or these weird videos that I had got or bought. And, once again, it all weirdly comes back to punk rock. Not all of them, but some of these guys were like punk rockers. And it's amazing how, once again, this weird little genre had these massive, massive ripples, We talk about it here. Jackass is kind of responsible for YouTube in a weird way. You'll hear it. You'll hear it. It makes a lot more sense in the context of this episode. Danger Ehren is one of my favorite people to talk to. And this is, oh my God, I'm stoked for you to hear this one. This is one that will, this is why I do this thing. This is why I do this thing. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Danger Ehren on Turned Out a Punk. Ehren, thank you for coming on the show, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me.
You are really one of my favorite faces to see.
That's amazing. Like, most people say it's the most disgusting thing they've ever seen in their life. I've had kids vomit at my feet. They would probably vomit all over my face, but they're so short they can only wee puke me.
Well, I didn't even, and I knew you as Ehren, the guy that came to our shows and took pictures for a long time before my brain made any connection to you being Ehren, the guy I've watched on screen do horrendous things to himself for my enjoyment. So it was so funny.
You know what's funny about that, actually, is it's an ongoing joke, and it's more than a joke. I think it's more of just reality, is that with the guys.
Yeah.
We started Jackass 20 years ago or something. And for the longest time, like, none of us were famous at first. Like, Knoxville was doing Mountain Dew commercials, and Bam was a pro skateboarder. Steve was lighting himself on fire, jumping in poo in Florida. No, everyone was doing their own thing. I was a pro snowboarder up here, doing my stuff. But throughout the years of all the Jackass stuff, it's been an ongoing joke that it's to say Ehren who, because people are like they don't know who I am. But like, the best part about that is that that's exactly how I want to be.
Yeah.
Like, once you lose your anonymity, you no longer can get it back. Like,
yeah.
If you're famous for even doing cool stuff, you're still famous, and people know where you go. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people who recognize me, especially with this, black diamond in my tooth, platinum, like gold black diamond.
Well, that was the thing. Is I think it's the reason I didn't recognize you is because, and I'll tell you some of these stories off mic afterwards.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other guys in the group that I've had interactions with carry themselves in a different kind of way.
Like, check me out.
Yeah, kind of. And you're like the most real ass dude I've ever, you were just the guy that was at our shows taking pictures, being like, yo, I'm going to send you this wicked photo of your set.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, thanks a lot, man. And just never making the connection. And then when I finally did, I was like, holy shit, dude, that's so wild. But I got to start this off the way I start all these podcasts off, which is, Ehren, how'd you get into punk? Do you remember the first time you ever came across the genre?
Well, I can let me start by saying the first concert I ever went to.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Because that influenced everything from there. It was actually, I was 15 years old. It was the first concert that wasn't like a state fair concert with my family or something like that. And here in Portland, at a place called La Luna.
Yeah.
And let's see, it must have been in like 1992 or something like that. And it was Neurosis. And Sleep opened up for Neurosis. And I'm good friends with Matt and Al and Jason with Sleep. But Matt actually moved up here to Portland, and we hang out all the time. But we were having a discussion like a year ago about first concerts, and I was like, yeah, my first concert was Neurosis at 15 at La Luna. And he goes, wait a minute, that was our first tour as Sleep ever.
Because they were
like Neurosis.
Asbestos Death, right? Before that or something?
Yeah, but that was Sleep.
Yeah, before they became Sleep. Yeah, well, that's crazy. That was the first Sleep tour.
Yeah.
Wild.
And so at that moment, at that time, I was, a skateboarder, snowboarder, everything. I was really starting to evolve because I grew up in a small town called McMinnville. It's, southwest of Portland, about an hour. And I grew up in a mortuary for 12 years. That's where I, basically was. We can talk about that in a bit. But,
yeah,
when you live in a small town back before the internet existed, you were isolated. You didn't have the ability to just know all these bands. And there was way less bands back then.
Yeah.
It's crazy how many bands there are now. But so in order for you to actually know a band, you had to either go to a concert, like the record label, and then just buy random shit at the record store that was on that label, or have a friend that boosted you a tape or something, like, check this out. And right about that time, I was really getting into, I was already into punk rock. And punk rock came about kind of like it came out through snowboarding. So skate videos and snowboard videos back in the day, all the bands that were in those videos were bands that weren't even big and now are huge. But back then it was like, hey, my friend's got a band. He'll let us use this song for our video. So, okay. And that's basically how I got into music, was through skating and snowboarding and surfing and that whole culture. I love to play music. I'm horrible at it. So for me, it was more of how do I connect to this music as I've connected to these other things like skating and stuff. And instantly it became like definitely top 5 most important things in my life when I go. I mean, there's like morals and ethics that are obviously more important, but music has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. And I think unless unfortunately you're deaf, music is a part of everyone's life, and it's everywhere. It's all around you all the time. It can change everything about what your experience, how you remember things, how you're doing the things you are right now. If you have some headphones in and you're listening to Enya while you're skating down a gnarly steep hill in San Francisco, that's going to be different than if you're listening to You Guys Fucked Up bombing that same street. You know what I'm saying? It's a completely altering experience. And growing up, I was like a punk rocker because I really just didn't give a fuck about all these fancy people doing their cool shit. Like, it meant nothing to me because one day, that shirt's cool and the next day it's not. It's like, who decides that? What do I have to turn my shirt inside out now? Fuck that. I would buy the shirts that were not cool back then, and that was punk rock, was to be just like unique and nerdy almost.
So what were the snowboard videos, your first ones that you kind of like remember seeing? Like Whiskey, was that one of them? Or?
The Whiskey videos, I was actually in a Whiskey video a long time ago.
Oh, that's what I kind of remember. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
You were in one of them, right?
Yeah. That was Sean Kearns and Johnson, those guys from Canada. I started snowboarding in like 1989, I think it was, and back then it was like all the like Totally Bored just came out, Snowboarders on the Twalk. It was like the beginning of Mac Dog films, and all of. Basically, snowboarding was at the time just a kooky thing, and then in the late 80s and early 90s, it became a culture and accepted by the mountains and the people, so that then you could express yourself and go up and ride. And the technology of the equipment was garbage. Like literally, we used duct tape and fucking Sorel boots and starter jackets and jeans. It was different, but because of that, we all connected. It was a small group of people up here in the Northwest. And in the 90s in the Northwest, we all know grunge started. And so snowboarding connected to grunge, like it basically was a part of how it got started. because those songs, like from Melvins and stuff, were in the videos because they were friends of the people doing the videos, and the bands were so small that they just wanted to be heard, and that's how it all kind of happened for snowboarding and for me to get really involved into music. You know, and it means so much to me, and the friends and the family that I've met through music and bands touring and going on tour with bands. It's very similar to the skateboarding and the people I've met there, and the snowboarding and the surfing and those lifestyles that we live together. And there's good and bad people in all of those things.
Absolutely.
But the good people that I've met in all of those things have been the best people in the entire planet, probably maybe ever to even live. You get to a point at which a person is like this good at the top, and you don't go any more. But there's a lot of those people, and it's nice to be able to surround yourself with those kind of people that are good people, like that understand like life and not just the mutant craziness of the everyday bullshit, but like truly have seen the world, understand it, and it's been a blessing to be able to meet like yourself and all the family that I've met through music, you know.
Well, it's crazy with punk rock. Like, I think it was illustrated to me best in Portland one time, like backstage at a show we played here. You're there.
Yeah.
Jerry A from Poison Ideas there.
Oh, yeah.
And Fred Armisen's there. And it's like, you know, people that don't have, you know, like any professional kind of connection to one another, yet all came from the exact same place, which is this music, you know? And one thing I wanted to ask you about, because, you know, snowboarding at that point, like that's something being born. That's a culture being born. Where did you first see that? Like, where did you first become exposed to it?
I grew up skateboarding in out in McMinnville, a small town, you know, and then I had some friends that were into snowboarding, and I grew up snowmobiling with my parents, so I was always going to the mountain like every other weekend when my dad had the weekend off, in a sense.
Yeah.
We had a snowmobile trailer and a motorhome, and in the motorhome my dad they built the bed in the back super tall so that they could, if you got a call on the way back from a vacation, he could go pick up a dead body and put it underneath the bed.
Wow.
And then
did that ever happen?
Every time. I'm not. Why do you think they built the bed to be like? It was like 4 feet high, where it was normally a 1 foot tall bed. They had to customize it so that, and they built a door on the outside of so you could open the side and then put a casket or just a fresh dead one on there.
Wow, it's like a hearse mobile home.
But that's an upgrade, because when I was a kid growing up, we had a station wagon, an old like 1985 Oldsmobile. It was red, and I have two sisters, 2 older sisters, and my mom and my dad. So there would be the 3 of us sitting in the back, my mom and dad in the front, and we'd be on a weekend outing or a vacation or something, and my dad would get a beeper, a page, and go to the payphone, and I knew every time, obviously, what the page meant. Yeah. It meant there's a call, and there's a 50-50 chance that we're on this side of that call and not the other side where we have to go home first. And 50-50 means half the time we would have to go pick up that body. And all of those times, he's the mortician, so it was fresh meat. And he would pick up the body on a cot usually it was a blue bag, a body bag, no casket. And my dad, we'd have to fold down the back seat, and then my 2 sisters and my mom and my dad would sit in the front seat, and I would lay down next to the dead body on the back.
Oh my God!
And it's 100% true. That's how I grew up. Like, that was my, I guess that's just what we got to do. Like, could you imagine a cop pulling you over? Like, what can I do for you, officer? Is that a dead body and a 5-year-old back there, sir? First of all, he's not wearing a seatbelt. Neither one of them. Anyways.
Wow.
So, like, for me, it was like we all grow up in our own unique ways.
Definitely.
That was just how it was for me.
Yeah.
But looking back at it now, it's, a little crazy, I guess.
A little different.
Way different.
You don't see that in 6 Feet Under.
No, that's...
They never told that story.
Yeah. those guys ripped off my life, but I guess they didn't get that one.
No, well,
You have to live that to know like that it couldn't even exist.
Exactly,
like,
exactly.
That's not something you.
That's
would
why
think.
you're going to write the reboot.
Yeah, right. 7 feet under. One more.
Yeah, or lying right beside it.
Yeah.
So where did you? So you guys were going to see these snowboarders, I guess, on the mountain, but that would have been like the first wave of dudes doing it, right? Like I don't know that much about snowboarding, but it doesn't begin in like.
It was started in the early 80s, basically, and it was still the beginning of that, but it mostly was skateboarders that lived in places that had snow.
Yeah.
And they couldn't skate in the winter, so they, a lot of guys, Tom Sims or whatever, Jake Burton, all these old guys that are, whatever, guys that pioneered the sport. And then the team riders that were sponsored, Terry Kidwell, Mike Estes, all these guys back in the day, Craig Kelly, that basically pioneered the whole thing. But it basically was skateboarding on snow. Mm-hmm. And skateboarders, it was all punk rock. Mm-hmm. Like if you watch the movie Thrashin', that's pretty much the Bible of skateboarding.
Yep, definitely.
It's like there was the jocks and there was the punks, and that was like how it was.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And punk rock lived through skateboarding, I think, like in the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. It was a huge part of punk becoming that style of punk, like SoCal, new punk, like not like Sex Pistols and stuff. That would have lived forever, already. That was happening. But this new, 80s and 90s punk, like it was started during the time of extreme sports starting. Like, as you say, extreme sports, but there was no X Games. Yeah. There was none of that.
Yeah.
But it all came about through those times in the 90s. And
how many people got turned on to music through Puss Zone and Thrasher?
Everything.
It was the go-to place.
Yeah.
Or skateboard videos, or even the Warp Tour later on.
Yeah, the Warp Tour was created basically. I went to the first Warp Tour ever, and Social Distortion, I believe, played there.
Where was the first one? Like in California somewhere, I guess?
They did this thing at Mount Hood. Unless my memory fails me, which wouldn't be the first time. But no, it was this party that they did, Warp Tour, up in at Meadows. And maybe it was just the first one for this area, but I'm pretty sure it was the first year of the Warp Tour.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just Van's way to try to combine the action sports with music. Mm-hmm. And it not only worked, but it goes hand in hand. Yeah. Like, more people use headphones while they're snowboarding or skating than not these days, especially because the headphones are so easy to just put in your ears. But that goes to show that back to how music influences your day-to-day life in such a major way. It really can change everything about what you're doing in that moment. And punk rock was, I think, and still is, well, it's weird now because it seems like nothing has any kind of I don't know, the heart and soul of what used to be seems like it's just gone because there's too much information out there for people. There's nothing sacred, nothing's cool. There's, you see a dude running Porky Pig out on the street, just wearing a t-shirt, no pants, and that's normal to you. Yeah. Yeah,
everything's kind of
and that kind of, I think, not to take credit for it because it's not something I really wish I could not have to say this, but Jackass pioneered in such a way society and the industry. It was just like snowboarding and skateboarding, how they went through pioneering and people. Jackass was before YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was before any social media, and it was at the same time that cameras started getting small enough that you could really get some decent footage to air on a TV show, but it was still ghetto. Mm-hmm. But the whole idea, the whole reason I ever got involved for myself was that I wanted to do something that would be unique and remembered, because growing up in the mortuary, I realized what life, you know, it's short, it's quick, but in life, at the end, it's still the end, no matter what you do, who you are, whatever. So basically, life is about leaving memories behind, and also about how you want to be remembered. So I live my life every day how I want to be remembered, and that's why I always will be who I am. I'm not going to like sell out or anything. And if everybody could just live in a way that was just like, I want to be remembered for being a good person, and not for being a shitty dude. Because tonight I might die, and if I'm remembered as a shitty dude, what was the point of living anyways? If I can't let go of all this negativity and go to heaven and be at peace when I let go of that last breath, then all you've done is basically wrong, and you can never let go of that. And that energy, I think, that negative energy is what I believe what hell is not being able to let go. And so basically I just want to always be able to live that way, that I want to do fun things, I want to change the world, I want to be remembered. But if I'm only remembered by one friend or one family member, that's good too. As long as I stay true to that goal in my life, and that's the most important thing. But Jackass, because of that, for me, was an outlet for me to let my ideas be seen and do something that was like weird and unique and be remembered. And at the time, I had no idea, none of us did, that it was going to be what it did. But it fucking aired on MTV. Like, I still, to this day, until it aired, did not believe that it was ever going to air, because I watched the pilot for the show, which I was on, and I was like, oh, damn, I thought we had a chance to be on TV. And then, and then 3 months later, I got a call, it's picked up. I'm like, are you kidding me? That was the worst shit I've ever seen. That was worse than like the shit we film up here.
Yeah.
Like
that was the wild. Well, that's the thing. It changed culture.
Yeah.
Like in a major way, and like, but it was like
it inspired people to not give a fuck about what the quality was, but more of the content, and it inspired people to like think outside the box, and they started sending us videos like crazy to MTV.
I can only imagine.
And we couldn't touch them. We couldn't open them. None of it. Because if we see them, they'll say we took their ideas or something.
Well, do you remember
and so that's why YouTube started. The guy told me it was because all these videos, everyone was inspired to film all this shit, but they had nowhere to show it.
Dude.
And that's YouTube.
I don't want to lose any of this, so can we start?
Yeah,
sorry.
We're in my truck right now.
We're in Aaron's truck.
Got the dog in the back.
He's got his beautiful puppy in the back.
Yeah, I'm going to start the truck.
Look at that.
Did we get juice?
We got juice. We're on. We're alive.
All right, we got juice.
We're charging.
We're charging.
Okay.
Do you mind if I hit this rip?
Oh, please hit that. Hit that rip.
I'm gonna hit a rip.
I was gonna say, like, it's amazing because, like, do you remember after Jackass exploded, there was this whole thing of Jackass crews.
Oh, like people filming their own stuff.
Yeah, but it became like a thing. Like, it was like you would have your graffiti crew, your breakdance crew. And then there were people that were like...
would go out and film on the weekends, dumb shit.
But they called themselves Jackass Crews.
Yeah.
And it was like... And then there was like...
Dude, there's a new show on MTV called Jackass. It's called Zack. Sorry, I'm coughing.
No, dude. I'm
called Jackass.
Jackass.
And I've never met him, but he seems like a nice guy and his whole crew. And his name's Zach, but... it's called Jackass.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what to think or say. I shouldn't even be talking about it because... I can't judge anybody.
Yeah.
I can't say because, we pioneered something that we own it, because I'll be honest, pioneers get paid in pain.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of being a pioneer.
Yeah.
It's the ones that come after that get paid the money.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. And I don't do it for money.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I like money. Who doesn't want to go on a vacation every now and then? But it's the memory that's left behind is the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
And while I'm alive, that is, and being able to see my friends hang out and know that we're all like doing the best we can, that's worth more than anything.
Yeah.
And I can't judge it to say that these newer kids aren't doing the same thing. So for me to say fuck them is kind of arrogant and irresponsible for me, because they could be living their life like I'm living mine, and for me to judge them is wrong. So go ahead and do your thing.
But you're right, it's like that that's a very blatant example of someone being like, here's where my inspiration is from. But like you said, like, you know, everyone on YouTube, like 90% of the YouTubers, like, there's just so many people.
YouTube is basically a network of dumb shit.
Yeah,
yes. It's like YouTube. It's like the porn for YouTube.
Yeah,
porn revolutionized the
internet
the
and
VHS, beta.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, the only reason we didn't do beta is because porn said we don't want to have to pay Sony the money to get these beta rights, so let's just VHS. It's free, and we'll make our own tapes. And boom, that took over.
Dude, I worked in a video store. I know how the economy of videos work. You know, like, it's porn that kept the lights on for all the art films.
and YouTube is the porn of YouTube is dumb shit. The dumber, the fucking better. Like, I seen dudes on YouTube like blow their arms up, like off with like firecrackers. Like, boom, like, and they were filming it, and somehow it's on YouTube, and you can watch the craziest shit.
Yeah.
And that's not what, like, my goal isn't to just do the craziest shit, although I've had 27 surgeries, and I've broken my neck 3 different times, and I've had 11 knee surgeries in those, and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm definitely not just, like, laying around crocheting every day, although it sounds nice.
It does sound nice.
But my goal isn't to just do crazy shit. My goal is to be entertaining, and to make it, like, weird enough that it's unique and will be remembered. Like, if you jump off of a building wearing street clothes, that's one thing. But if you jump off with the fucking looking like Mary Poppins trying to fly, that's a whole nother deal.
Yeah.
It's the same end result. You're going to go splat. But in the process going down, it sure looks a lot cooler with an umbrella. That's funny.
That's a good line. So how did it come together? Because, like, that's the other thing is, like, you guys were all kind of, like, on a similar tip, doing sort of like, you know, there's the CKY stuff, there's the stuff that was being done at Big Brother, you know, the stuff that you're doing up here. How did you guys, like, come together and decide to form this super group of doing ridiculous stuff?
So, we were all kind of in our own little areas, like Bam and Ryan, and that whole crew was over in Philly.
Yeah.
Or Westchester,
Yeah,
Pennsylvania. They're in Westchester. And Steve-O was in Florida and traveled around a lot doing his thing. And Preston was like in Oklahoma, like somewhere over there, Joplin, Missouri.
Yeah.
And he had met Knoxville through some acting comedy stuff or whatever. And apparently, you know, and every person in the puzzle is there for a reason. And Dave was living up here in Portland at the time. Knoxville was in LA trying to do his famous stuff. Pontius was coming from San Luis Obispo. Jason, Wee Man, was living he lives down in SoCal. Mm-hmm. And we all, and you know, I was up here in Portland, and I was filming with my friend Whitey, who did Kingpin Productions, which was a snowboard company, filmmaking, and he worked with Big Brother. And
did he work on, like, shit or any of those types of videos? Or
no, he was just affiliated with Tremaine and the whole thing. I mean, he did some stuff, Blunt Magazine and all these other magazines and stuff, but mostly he was doing films and just knew everybody. And he was down there in LA one time and told Tremaine about this crazy guy up in Oregon who has all these ideas, and they were like, "What? That sounds crazy. What did he write this? What did he like?" The first thing I wrote was I was gonna run, or not the first thing, but one of the first things I filmed was running through a Burgerville on 12th and Hawthorne here in Portland, dressed in a football uniform, and I stole the food and then did a spiked it in front of the car and did a touchdown dance and ran off high knees. And the lady who was handing off, and she freaked, like, I can imagine, you know, like, and this was, no one's ever seen anything Jackass.
Yeah, this is
Jackass doesn't exist.
A pre-Jackass world. Someone's doing this.
And then that day and the next day I did this Danger Ehren extreme pogo where I pogo stick through fucking a war zone. I went downstairs through waterfalls, all this crazy. I broke my hand first day filming, and 3 months later and then I got a call saying, you know, the show got picked up, and we all just filmed our stuff in our places for the first whole season. One time I did this skit where I pretended to be blind.
Yeah.
And I did the blind driver.
Yeah.
Where I rent a car, I think that was in the movie. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I don't honestly
Yeah.
remember.
I definitely know that one.
Was it in a movie or was it in a
I think
TV
it was
show?
in the show. I think it was in the show.
Okay.
I've got all the DVDs, but then there's that one that didn't come out because
I
of the
don't-
fire thing.
Oh, there's some stuff that never came out.
Oh yeah, I can imagine there's like some
Yeah.
stuff on the cutting room floor.
That cutting room floor doesn't exist.
Yeah, the
it's just a
Jackass-
bottomless pit of it falling until for eternity. It will never even hit that floor. It's so gnarly.
Yeah,
But-
I can only imagine.
But I was like that skit, for instance. We filmed that here in Portland also, and I backed up, or I tapped across the street, pretending I was blind. It's just a thing that no one would ever think that a guy who was blind would drive a car.
Yeah.
And so I tapped over to the car. I acted like I couldn't see the key hole, and then I finally got in the car and I slammed in the car in front of us, which was a rental that we rented. And then I took off. I hit Dave, and people chased me down, and they wanted to kill me. They were so pissed. And as they were getting closer to me in the rearview mirror, I'd see him get close, and then I'd floor it, and then I'd let him get close again, like they were running. And then finally, some guys in a car, and then at the end, when they finally caught me, they pinned me. I was in a car, like hauling ass around Portland, and they cornered me, and I couldn't get out. And finally, I was like, "Hey, listen, man, we're filming for this TV show called Jackass, for MTV," and they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about? We don't give a fuck. What are you talking about? You're filming for a show." Jackass hadn't even aired. It was for the show. I'm positive.
Yeah.
It hadn't even aired. Like the shit that we used to do before it was ever like, nowadays you see somebody do something crazy, you're like, "Where's the cameras?"
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the camera? Oh, there's one, and there's one. And you can't even see the cameras because everyone's filming with their iPhone. So everybody has a camera on them at all times.
Yeah.
Which means everybody's filming everything. Crazy. Fucking society is goddamn full of mutant zombies, and they're walking around with fucking cell phones, filming everything.
Everything.
Live.
I know.
Like you go to a concert tonight, your show tonight will be filmed live.
Oh, there'll be a lot
whether
of
you
shit.
know it.
Yeah.
or
And that's like, it's funny because you're right. Like, it's amazing to think about that world that, Jackass came out of. Like, that wasn't a thing yet. Like, cell phones were.
Well,
something-
I mean, Jackass is partly responsible, somewhat.
Oh,
I
definitely,
think, but definitely more importantly is technology. Because
yeah.
whether it was Jackass or not, I mean, nobody has a time machine. Jackass will live forever.
Yeah.
It will be in MoMA. We watched the movie there. It's
Like, do you look at it as being performance art?
absolutely.
Yeah.
The whole reason for it was to be unique and to just do stuff that nobody else had done or was doing, or that wasn't. We created our own magic. We didn't get the recipe from Copperfield and then recreate it. We created this friendship, brotherhood, magic that is art. I mean, what is art if not that? Do you think an artist who paints with a brush is better than somebody who is a filmmaker or TV or just somebody who's doing street performance?
Dude, you're talking to a musician who yells on stage.
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
the utmost.
How are you an artist?
Yeah, exactly. I'm very much.
But when you fucking take your shirt off and go stage dive and get sweaty all over people, that is part of your art.
Yeah,
People
absolutely.
want to
No,
see
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
And that's who you are as an artist.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that stuff, then they look at you like, what the fuck? What? So, if somebody who paints with a brush has a style of an art and whatever, and then he does something completely different and people question it, but it doesn't matter because it's just a personal experience you're going through in life. Every moment is a completely new, unique moment.
Yeah.
And as an artist, you shouldn't have to be defined by a style or a genre, because what the fuck is the point of being an artist if that's the case? That's no longer art. That's just corporate bullshit. That's us making money and making us feel better. And the truth is I could die with the thousands of millions. I have so many photographs. It's insane. I've shot almost every band that's toured in the last 20 years. And I'm going to be putting out, the books and all this stuff, but I would much rather die with that and let it live than just be typecasted into being this robot of a human and taking away the soul of the reason I do it to begin with is because it makes me feel like I'm a fucking pirate and I'm out at sea. And every time I get a good shot or a piece of art, it makes me feel like I just put a gold coin in my chest. And I've been out at sea for a very long time, and I haven't docked, but I got a huge chest full of gold. But what's the point in being a pirate?
I wrote an essay for my film studies class in university around the time the Jackass movie, first one, came out, about how that was like the first truly pure Mondo movie that didn't involve any exploitation, because Mondo films, like death films, notoriously
those
exploited
make
people.
Money.
Well, exactly. But I was saying you guys made the first one where everyone was a willing participant.
And we got away with it because
shit.
we wore fucking dumb outfits like a meter fairy.
Yeah.
Like I wrote that skit. I was like, oh man, how funny would it be to plug the meter and chase around a meter guy? And if I would have worn street clothes, it wouldn't have even been funny.
Yeah.
It would have just been dumb, like whatever. But because I dressed up in a tutu and like had a little bag, a little satchel with quarters and a wand, and I was like blessed on the meters while I slid the quarters in, that's what makes people laugh. It's like that art, that is the art of the painting, you know?
When you guys first met, because you guys had been doing this in isolation basically for the first season, was it like, oh shit, this is going to work immediately? Because not everyone's like from punk. Not everyone's from snowboarding. Not everyone's from skateboarding.
We were so excited because we all, like, basically in our own rights grew up with the idea that I think we were all going to be on, like, not TV, but like we all were affiliated with things that weren't just your average normal thing, you know? Like we were in our own rights doing something that was outside of the box. Like, I'm going to be a professional and go travel the world. And so when we all met, we were all just so pumped because finally each one of us were like got to this point where I don't even fucking know how. The point is that we were all so happy that we were involved in something that wasn't just us filming with our friends, and no one's ever going to see it. That we were like best friends from the beginning. Yeah. Like we were living a dream life all of a sudden, and it didn't matter if somebody didn't like me. We all liked each other. Yeah. We all loved each other. We all still love each other. We obviously sometimes can't stand each other like brothers would. Like, I'll be honest, just the thought of going to go film something right now gives me more PTSD than I want to, like, basically, it makes me want to chop my own dick off so I can't move. So I'm like, sorry guys, I can't make it. I chopped my own dick off. I filmed it. We'll see if it makes the cut. But that I'd rather... I mean, you know how gnarly it's been for 20 years? Like, not knowing where I'm going to get hit, like, by a hand or punched in the face or get my tooth ripped out. That broke my face to my eyeball. It took 6 months to heal. I knew what I was getting myself into. All the stuff that I do, most of it, I write a lot of most of the stuff I do, and then even stuff for other people. But obviously, there's some stuff written for me. And those things are, you know, fuck.
They suck.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I've broken my neck a couple times. I've blown out my knee many times. I've, you know, the bruises, the mental, I can tell you my body is in pain, but the mental shit from it all, it's like so exciting. You're on top of the world. Imagine, everybody in the planet knows Jackass. They don't all know who I am, but they all know what Jackass is, which, by the way, is perfect because if I need to, like, I'm in Vegas and I want to get into a nightclub, I just be like, yo, you ever seen that show Jackass? And then they look at me and they're like, holy shit. But it's not something that I have to be known for as
carry with you.
Yeah,
all the
like,
time.
oh, that's that dude. And some of the guys are like that. And I'm not, like, bagging on it, but I can tell you that they probably would say they'd much rather be like me right now.
Able to slip away from it.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Everybody with technology in their pocket wants a selfie. And they want to instantly post it. They want to go live. Like, you could be doing something that you don't want anybody to know you're even there. Yeah. You're just living your life, and all of a sudden,
oh yeah.
But
it's like, it's fun to put on fame, but it's really hard to take off.
Yeah.
So you just gotta
it's really, with it. It's not something you take off. But
What was the first time you saw the Melvins? Like, I don't mean to jump all the way back to music.
No, absolutely. But the Melvins are one of my, if not my favorite band, like Dale and Buzz.
And the coolest project you told me that you were working on is your Melvins photograph book that you want to do.
Well, I've been photographing the Melvins for 20 years.
Yeah.
So on my Instagram,
I saw that photo.
I have a photo at Danger Ehren. Yeah. That's funny, right?
Yeah.
Like first of all, most people are gonna just type in AARON unless they know, and whatever, they're gonna go follow some dude named Danger Ehren and be like, this guy's cool, I guess. It's funny. But the first time I met Buzz, it was like 20 years ago, and I had to take a picture because at the time I was a pro snowboarder, and it was at La Luna, and the Melvins were playing, and I was really into the Melvins because they had some songs in some snowboarding films, and like Bullhead and some other, like, I can't remember everything right now, but I had listened to them a lot, and I got backstage somehow, and it was way before Jackass, and Buzz and I got a photo with him, and then 20 years later, which was I think a year ago, I'm like, Buzz, hey, look at this photo, let's recreate this. And so him and I, we took that same photo again, and then I posted a side by side 20 years later and whatever. But I mean, I've been friends with Dale and Buzz for 20 years now. Like I growing up in the Northwest, you know, they grew up, they were basically the beginning of all what we know is grunge and that whole era of stoner rock, stoner metal, and all of it.
There's
Sludge.
no Nirvana without them.
There's no Nirvana.
Like Dave does not meet, like doesn't enter the picture.
No.
Kurt
auditioned to be in the Melvins.
Yeah.
But then was their roadie.
Yeah.
Because they didn't.
Well, Nirvana was originally the Klingons because they were always hanging around the Melvins.
Yeah.
And so
and Green River, Mark Arm's band before Mudhoney, was also, and that was the more punk version of the stoner music, the sludge, the grunge, but it combined into, you know, it basically, somebody said, hey, this is cool in Hollywood, basically, or in LA or something like that, and it got, because everything else was like 80s glam rock was pretty much done at the time. People were over it. There was nothing there that was unique, and like the music industry tapped into the unlimited resource that Seattle and Portland had. But obviously Seattle was the main epicenter of that grunge. Like bands like Poison Idea and the Wipers were here in Portland, Awesome, the Rats, all these awesome bands. But like Portland was always forgotten about, or never. It was jumped over. It was San Francisco to Seattle, and man, I grew up in the epicenter of it. During the epicenter, like I graduated high school in 1995, and I was a skater, snowboarder, surfer, music, everything that was the Northwest was what I lived. I'm fourth generation Oregonian. I'm not just like, hey, what's up, guys? Like I'm from here, and what was happening was daily life, and it became huge, and it was weird to be inside of this, looking out, going, wow, everyone thinks that what we do is cool now. But I remember I got beat up all the time by people that didn't think it was cool, and now it's cool, so now I'm not getting beat up, and now they want my phone number on my Nokia brick. Actually, at the time, it was like a Motorola flip, you know?
Yeah, but now they want your photo.
Oh, yeah, now they want their photo. And you listen, I'm not disrespecting people in such a way that is like, don't do that. It's just, let's be respectful of people. Like, it's, if you take a photograph and you film everything and you post all this stuff, what is then unique and meaningful? Like, if you document your entire life, and if everybody's documenting their entire life, then what is the meaning of, like, there's too much information out there. You know, it's just like, sometimes it's nice to just sit on the beach and go, wow, we live on this planet that, like, is, you know, don't get me started on like what's happening to our planet, you know, through all this technology and everything else, but I'm actually okay with it because I believe I will be the first AI myself.
What, you're gonna be?
Yes.
Like, gonna become just pure information?
Well, I've been working on something since I was a very young child.
Really?
As a human. Yeah. Basically, in the thought that if everything is documented, then what is memory? What is your life consist of right now? Your life and your future choices are based on the memory of what you've lived and chosen in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Those memories are who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that decides then what you're going to choose, usually in the future, because that's who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct? So what is the point of not being then able to take my memories, input that into a hard drive, and upload that into a robotic body, and my consciousness would then be based on who I am anyways?
It's like that Moore's law, right? Like the idea that $10,000 will eventually be able to buy the contents of enough storage to hold the human brain.
Sure.
On a computer.
But the what people say is, well, then how are you not just a robot? But it's because the difference is I'm taking the memories in my life, my ethics, my morals, my consciousness, based on all the writings, the videos, the photos, the things that I've been documenting and writing since I was basically 3 years old. I've documented my entire life, long before technology, like writings, and I still have toys from when I was a kid with photographs of me holding them that are meaningful. Mm-hmm. Like the first stunt I ever did, I was 3 years old, and I jumped off these stairs because I saw my van. I made this van go flying off at 18 stairs in a mortuary, wooden stairs. And I thought it looked cool, so I ran and I jumped all the way down to the third step, so 15 stairs. I ate shit, and I laid there at 3 years old, and I looked at my van, and it had broke, and so I started crying. And then my mom came running down and was like, "Are you okay? Oh my God, and gave me a bath, put me in bed, and gave me ice cream. And from that moment on, I was like, well, I guess if I fuck myself up and people take notice, they're going to reward me. So since the age of 3, that's been my life.
Yeah.
And that toy that I still have represents a huge part of my life. So keeping things
you kept that van?
I still have it.
Wow.
It's in my house next to all my other shit that I've kept. That's like a meaningful time, something prolific to me.
Yeah.
But that in itself, these memories are who we are.
Yeah.
That will make our choices for the future. So this body I'm in is fucked up. Thank you. 27 surgeries, 3 broken necks. I can't even tell you how much. Like, it's kind of to the point at which I've got some more years in it. I can still do some cool shit. Trust me, I won't stop. But at some point, it's going to give out. And if it doesn't give out, the earth is going to give out. And the only way that you can survive without eating or drinking water, air, all that, is by being basically a robot. Mm-hmm. So Elon Musk, if you're out there, I really want to get a hold of you. I've been trying to get a hold of you. I don't know how to get a hold of you, but I've been working on something similar to what you know, and I would love to get a hold of you. So please reach out to me. Try the Instagram thing. You just DM me at the Instagram. It's that's the A with the squiggly around it, circle. Danger, Danger Ehren, Danger Ehren. Elon Musk, please get a hold of me. I really, really want to talk to you.
Maybe hit up Grimes.
Yeah.
Get to him through Grimes.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Wait, what's Grimes?
Grimes.
I'm going to smoke some more reefer. Wait, didn't Elon Musk get busted? Everyone freaked out on him when he smoked on Joe Rogan's show.
Podcast.
Yeah. See what happens but we're not filming this. But hold on here, just in case. That's the lighter. Oh, yeah. I'm giving myself the O face. Butter.
For once, it's not me smoking weed on the air on this podcast. So everyone's like, relieved.
You want to hit? You want to hit?
I'll hit.
Here, try this. Fuck that thing. This is.
This is the vape pen.
Could you imagine? Let me get it going. Could you imagine being a kid?
Oh yeah.
Like I didn't start smoking marijuana until I was 21 years old. I did not drink until I was 20 and a half years old. First time I ever drank. because I had to get out of that town, and the only way out of there was to focus on one thing, to get good at one thing, and get the fuck out. And those distractions were not going to work for me.
So
and
did you?
I didn't have girlfriends. I didn't drink. I didn't do any of that shit because I literally was so focused to needing to like connect to something that would get me outside of the town that I lived in, because I knew there was a whole world out there.
So did you how did you know about sponsorship and snowboarders? Like, were these from like these friends of yours that you're meeting on the mountain? Like, were there sponsored guys there?
Well, I mean, it goes back to skating. Like in the 80s, I started skateboarding in the second grade, like in 1986 or I can't remember exactly, second grade time. And just having a board with a logo on it meant something. Yeah. And then names. And then from there, it was just embedded into my psyche since I was basically a kid, that it's the potential to be a professional at something is there.
And so when you first left, was that to snowboard professionally? When you first like traveled outside?
Yeah, it was basically snowboarding. I skated and I surfed and I snowboarded, but I had sponsors like Airwalk and Oakley back in the day, local sponsors, and a bunch of different. 1 year I'd ride for this company and then the next company, but it was the only way that I could see myself not like being trapped. And I saw being trapped as being like not just living in the small town I grew up in, but in a cubicle or some other thing that I don't know what's wrong with me or what's right with me, but I can't. Mm-hmm. And I never have been able to. And I think it has something to do with growing up around, so many people to listen to me talk.
Yeah.
And they didn't say a goddamn thing. No. It was perfect. It was all about me, baby. Yeah. Fuck.
I imagine that's also why
it's good shit.
You were fearless of death and fearless of everything, is because you grew up around death, right? Like,
I'm gonna turn this car off. Are we charged?
Yeah, we're doing well now. We can definitely.
I've always been aware of it. I can't escape the thought of it every day, all day long. I wish I could. I really do. But no matter what I do, I will constantly know it exists. And that basically drove me I guess it drove me insane as a child.
Well, you grew up around in a way that, most people don't.
No.
Right? Like, literally beside it.
Yeah, when that becomes like normal to you, to see like brains and like the first pair of titties I saw was 7. No, I was 9. I was 9 years old, the first pair of titties I saw. And she was 82 years old.
And it was a dead person.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And that was what I was like,
Yeah.
And my dad became a mortician because he wanted to help people. He literally was going to be a therapist, or he became a mortician because he saw that this is the worst time in people's lives. Mm-hmm. It's not like somebody might lose their job and they might lose their, whatever shit. And they go crazy and, I need to see a therapist. But actually, when you lose somebody that you love more than anything on this planet, that is when you are the most vulnerable 100%. And the most lost on this, what we know as planet in our universe. And so he said, I want to do that to help people. And he is the most amazing person. My mother and my father are still together, 51 years now. They are, they're the best. And they're the best because I know that they're going to be able to let go of this planet and their bodies and know that they did a good thing in life. And that is the most inspiring thing I've ever known.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
it was still
the reality that I grew up in a mortuary.
Yeah. Yeah, and had to experience things, I think.
But I bought my parents a house. So,
yeah.
So I guess, paid off.
No, you did.
Like,
what do you know what they thought the first time they saw Jackass? Like, what do they think? Because, no matter, art or not, it is extreme. It is the most extreme art that
was out there. As a TV show, it was funny. like there was some stuff that like was like, oh my gosh. But when the first movie came out, and I rented this theater here in Portland, and I got all my friends and family, and I'm sitting next to my mom, and I purposely wanted to sit next to my mom, and I videoed my mom in night vision with that time with this little Sony cam with night vision. And when I whip out my dick and I pee into a snow cone and I eat it, and I look over at my mom and she's looking at the big screen, like literally like, oh my God. And my aunt and uncle, my mom and my dad, all my cousins, everyone's there. Everyone's thinking, what the fuck? and I videoed it, and then I just looked at my mom and I was like, Mom, I'm sorry. Literally, she looked at me and just like, I don't know what to say. And it was a good time, but you know, it's been a great life, and it's not over.
Ehren, honestly, this is one of my favorite things I've ever gotten to do, have this conversation with you. But I unfortunately have to go.
Yeah, we got to go play music,
man.
A
stupid show.
I got to go shoot photos of you.
I would much prefer to just hear Ehren talk to you, but will you come back at some point and do
Absolutely.
a part 2?
Fuck yeah.
Because there's so much more to talk about. There's
hours and hours and months.
Literally hours to get to before it's all said and done. This has been a lot of fun, man. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, man. It was a fun time. All right. Woo! Booked up!
Thank you, Ehren, for coming on the show. And as you heard right there, oh my gosh, is there room for more? I wish I didn't have to play that show that night. We could have sat there and talked for hours. Hours in his amazing survival truck thing that he has with his little puppy dog in the back. What a fun hang that was. What a great time. Thank you, Ehren, so much. And I will see you for that part 2 in the future. Speaking of future, next week on the show, Julian Baker of, Julian Baker fame, of most recently last year's huge breakout X-Boy Genius X fame. And this is an incredible episode. What an awesome person to talk to. I'm a big fan of her music, and to kind of get to sit down and talk about, Madball. Who'd ever thought that, I'd be sitting talking to someone from Boy Genius about Madball? Well, I should have thought it, because once again, it always comes back to that punk rock. So that is next week on the show. It's a fantastic, fun conversation I was thrilled to get to do, and I'm more than thrilled to get to share it with all of you next week right here. So, that's it. No, that's not it. What am I saying? That's it. No, I will say goodbye to you now, but after this, there will be a whole extra bonus thing of Chris O'Toole, my co-host from the Turned Out a Punk Footnotes podcast that comes out following this one each and every week. Well, almost each and every week. But we got together and we ran through some of our favorite records of the last year. And what would a top 10 list be without some glaring omission? So Chris wanted me to also shout out the Special Interest Spiraling 12-inch because he hadn't heard it at the time of the recording of this. And I would also say I forgot the Nothing LP. I can't believe I forgot that. I listened to that a ton this year as well. So, but we talk about a lot of other stuff. And I'm sure there's more we could have gotten to. But that's the fun. Send in those missed records that we should check out, please, to Footnotes, turnoutapunkfootnotes@gmail.com. Separate email, separate show. And that will be checked by Chris O'Toole. And yeah, so here it is. The Turned Out a Punk year-end record list spectacular. But before that, go out there and make your own culture. Please sign your organ donor cards and talk to your family about donating your organs to someone else after you're gone. And also, that's it. Try and make this world a better place. And I will see you next week. Enjoy this. Thanks for listening. Bye. Chris, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, no worries, man.
It's weird saying that to you because normally, we're co-hosting a show together, but now it feels almost like you're a bit of a guest.
Yeah. I'm a hostage more than a guest. Yeah.
Yes, well, hey, however you want to look at it. But I just wanted to have you on quickly to kind of go over the year that was 2018. I guess starting off, first of all, how was your 2018 in general? You have a pretty good year?
I had a bizarrely positive. Well, the latter half of my year was bizarrely positive, considering that my normal years I don't feel are so much. So yeah, I actually, for once in a very long time, cannot complain at the minute. So yes.
Well, like every coin, there are two sides, and my 2018 was less than stellar.
Yeah, you've had a rough one.
But you know what? It's been but that being said, like this is not a time to unfortunately, or no, I guess to talk about the stuff that was unfortunate that passed by. We want to go over the stuff that was great that went on this year, and I think in amongst all the kind of terrible things that I was dealing with, there were some things that brought me a lot of joy this year, and one of them, as always, was music in this podcast, doing this podcast. I mean, yeah, let's talk about that stuff, Chris. Did you have a good year when it comes to music this year? Were there a lot of stuff you were into?
Yeah, I'm kind of still sort of getting through everything that I just started, like, I don't know, checking out stuff that was meant that I sort of missed. But in general, yeah, I found it was a pretty good year. Like I was sort of weirdly busy with job stuff, so I found that there was a pocket of the year where I really was like missing things, and then now I'm sort of catching up. But yeah, I thought it was good. Like not like of all genres, but I thought this year was a really not this type of podcast, but I thought this was a really strong year for rap music, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I know I thought there was a lot of good stuff this year.
Yeah, same here. I think last year I was definitely a little more checked out of music, and this year I kind of, I was able to kind of get back into it a lot more, and there was a lot of stuff that I was super into. Like I think this year, um, being home, being able to kind of like be around a little bit more and check out some stuff, and also going on tour again and checking out bands on tour. I was, surprised at how much stuff I was into. Last year, I definitely saw a lot more shows, but this year I feel like I listened to a lot more new stuff.
Yeah, I make a concerted effort every year to do it, regardless. But yeah, things came to me a little more naturally this year. But yeah, I think the other thing was I was more actively like purchasing new stuff. Like I had a decent year and I wasn't flat broke for once. So I was actually like kind of getting things as they came, which was nice, and sort of so I was kind of catching things as they came out. I guess maybe a little more than normal. So that's why I felt more engaged with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the same with me. There was a lot of stuff. That I was, like I said, there's some cool stuff that I'd heard, from the world of rap and hip hop. There's definitely some awesome stuff I heard from the world of punk, and stuff I heard from just the general world of, I don't know, we're in a post indie world, so I guess it's just like popular music now.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
Also, did you see Obama put out his favorite songs of the year list?
I saw that today. I haven't looked at it enough to like parse it, but I always feel like yeah, it's just that's just funny to me because like, do I really care what kind of music he likes? Like, not at all. Although for a president or a former president, he definitely has probably the, I don't know, maybe I'm going out on a limb, but maybe the best taste of any president.
Yeah, until President Punk shows up in a couple more years. Beto will be the one that, President Punk will change everything for everyone.
Yeah.
But we're definitely with Obama talking President Punk adjacent, because you know who he had on his list.
I didn't see. No, I just looked this morning. I thumbed by it real quick. But anyway, what was on it?
Kurt Vile.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's so funny because we went on tour with the Foo Fighters. Like, I'm sure they know Obama. Like, we went on tour with Arcade Fire. They know they definitely played Obama benefits and stuff. So, but like, I don't know, with Kurt Vile, it feels like, wow, like there's a chance that he's going to meet the president. Like, that's a guy that I know.
Well, the weird part too is it's like he's not, because Kurt's from what, Philly, I think?
Yeah, Philadelphia.
So it's not even like a Chicago nod. It's like a legit, just like, I'm rocking the Kurt Vile record. That's great though.
Do you think Obama's going to get into like Silt Breeze Records now?
I think the fact that you can now, in a very Damian sense, connect Vile to Barack Obama is pretty insane, and that's the world we live in now.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
Kurt Vile, meaning Vile, like the esoteric, obscure band that Kurt Vile has given little nods to, or at least in his merch. And yeah,
I think
that's
that was
the world
more
we
from
live
the
in now.
management. I don't like.
Either way, whoever. That is kind of wild.
It's definitely wild. It's definitely wild to think that there's like a chance that Obama's like, just on his music listening to app had it free flow over to, Eat Skull. And now Obama's like, I'm kind of into Eat Skull. And then he's like,
It is.
and then he hears Eat Skull's Psycho Sin cover. And then he's now jamming into Psycho Sin. This is we live in a weird world right now where there's a chance that the former president of the United States might become like a deep head New Jersey noisecore collector.
I feel like though, if I'm like, again, to take it back to a regional nod, like if I'm a Chicago, person in music, I'm kind of bummed that he doesn't shout out because they have some things to talk about. You know what I mean?
Definitely, but like what, like Crudos, like Charles Bronson.
Well, yeah, exactly. No, honestly though, like he's like that's the world we live in now. Definitely, I feel like Crudos deserves like a Barack shout out.
Oh, I definitely
100%.
think they deserve it. I just think it's like I think Kurt Vile's music is a lot more accessible. Like that Kurt Vile's going to be the gateway drug to Obama getting into Psycho Sin, as I've clearly made that.
Yeah, so,
Or maybe fucked up.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be a guest on here.
I honestly thought you were going to say that, like that you guys made the list. And I feel like you could have, but I feel like your band name is going to prevent him from ever shouting you out, to be honest.
I think there's a snowball's chance in hell of that happening. But I was very happy because this week on Iggy Pop's radio show, he played a couple fucked up songs. And
nice.
And then talked about the band like making no reference to the fact that like we've played with him a few times and I've met him a few times. Like I don't think he makes any connection between the two. Which is fine.
But that's still cool.
Totally cool.
Yeah.
Totally cool. No, I was beyond chuffed that he mentioned us.
Yeah, that's well, anytime that happens, I think as like fans, as you and I are, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Obviously you're psyched. Like I for me, I don't know, I can't speak for you, but for me, I always, well, I'm not a performer, but like I'm a fan first regardless. So if that kind of those nods happen, I'm always kind of psyched when I hear about that or whatever.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And speaking of being fans, Chris, we got to talk about stuff that we were fans of this past year. As I said, there's a lot of cool stuff that came out, a lot of stuff that I was really stoked to get and listen to on the turntable. And let's go over a couple things. Chris, do you want to start us off with what was one thing of this past year that you really got into music wise?
Okay, well, this is sort of a last minute, me going over it. So there probably is going to be stuff I missed. That goes without saying. But one thing earlier in the year, and I can't remember what month it came out, but I anticipated it, being that I think this band is quite great, and I really think it delivered it. And it's rare that a third 12-inch or LP delivers in the punk world, in my opinion. So for me, it was the Hank Wood and the Hammerheads' newest self-titled LP, the third one. And it's great, and it's a little more diverse than, not that it's very much them, but it has to me a couple tracks on there that have broader appeal. I'm a little disappointed to see from what I've checked out so far that it didn't reach any of like the critical darling kind of like blogs and websites, because I really feel that it's a very strong piece of work. Mm-hmm. And anyway, that was one. I don't know if you heard that LP. I think is phenomenal.
No, I to be honest with you, I have not heard that LP yet, so I'm definitely going to put that on my list to check out. Did you?
It's really great.
Did you like are they touring that record at all?
I have not seen them on this record. No, they had come to Toronto a couple times, I believe, on the last like their first two LPs, I saw them certainly in between them, or definitely on each LP. I don't know, but they're a great band regardless.
Crazy live band.
Yeah, but like that LP, like once you hear it, you'll know what I mean. For me, that band, and this is like I've felt this way for years, and this has kind of been my party line on this. Is I feel that when the dust settles. And like most punk bands, usually a lifespan of a punk band. So I just assume this band will not be a long, existing band. I hope they do, though. I think their work is great. But assuming they do the usual life cycle of a punk band and they eventually cease to exist, fairly soon into their, they've probably only been around 5-6 years, I think. Maybe a little longer. But I feel like they're going to be a band like how we or people look back now on like the Mummies in the 90s. I feel like this is going to be that band. I genuinely do. And I think that people are sleeping on this band's, like, especially their recorded output, because their live rep is so big that they don't really, weigh those LPs. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's my thing. I guess it's more of a garage nod there, I suppose, and I feel like they kind of fit in that world too. But so that's my take.
I kind of think the same thing in another band is the OCs, and like. Their new record's really different too. I didn't have it on my list, but it's certainly something that once I did my list, I kind of regret not having it on. Sorry, I'm cleaning my banger in the background. That's what you're hearing. I regret not having the chance to grab that on vinyl because it's something I did listen to a lot this year, and like a different sounding one too.
I checked it. I think is that Orc you're talking about?
Yeah.
Or what was the...
Is that his
Yeah, that's like... I heard that a few... I think so. I got to look that up again real quick with the resource. We should do it justice if we're shouting it out.
Yes, that's 100% sure.
But yeah, I heard that very briefly, if that's the record I'm thinking of. But it was like... I definitely didn't feel... It didn't resonate with me. That's not to say I didn't feel it was good. Oh, no, they have a newer one. Sorry, Orc was the year previous. So I haven't heard the new one yet. The new one is called Smote Reverser?
Yeah.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, Smote Reverser. That is 100% the one I'm talking about. Sorry. Yeah. No, it's great.
It's Castle Face Records, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't on my list. Maybe if I did my list again, probably would be. I'm going to start off with my first record that I want to shout out, and that is the Terry Funk Tougher Than Shoe Leather LP on flannel graphs. And it's just like a 30-minute interview done with Terry Funk, and Terry Funk is someone that I could just listen to talk forever, and someone who is so hugely important in wrestling that I think he transcends wrestling and just becomes hugely important in pop culture. Like, the guy was in Roadhouse,
That's true. Yeah.
The LP looks amazing too, and just I don't know, just something like this, a record like this existing, it had to wind up on my top 10 list at the end of the year.
Yes, I did not. It's no surprise to the audience, I would imagine. I had no idea that existed this year, but I'm very happy to hear about it, and I'm not surprised that you love it.
Oh, it's gorgeous! It's a gorgeous record, and. Yeah, Terry Funk is someone that I was supposed to work with on that wrestling TV show, but we never got a chance to do it. So, someone I'm a huge fan of, though. So I'm love this record.
Cool.
What's your next pick?
Okay, my next pick again, and these two, although I would never call Hank power pop, but this next record is definitely a power pop record, and I'm shouting it out also because it's Canadian content. But this isn't me like trying to include something Canadian just because. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to look it up so I make sure I got the label info correct on this.
That's like the most Canadian thing you can say is justifying a Canadian pick on your top 10 list by saying you're not picking it because it's Canadian.
Well, but like for music fans like you and I, we know what that means.
No, I know.
Like,
I know.
Like, we live in a country where, like the radio or whatever plays 30 or 40%. It's like a regulation. And that's not to say it doesn't help people, but I just loathe that idea that people, like, for you and I being Canadians, people listening to this podcast, like, I'm not propping this up because it's Canadian. No, I'm propping this up because it's a deadly, like, you get it, but I just mean it does need to be said. Anyway, it's by a band called Tommy and the Commies. And it's a 12-inch, and it is called Here Come. It's on Slovenly Records. and or recordings, pardon me. But I believe they're from Sudbury, if I'm not mistaken, and I think they're sort of like descended of the Statues and Stranger Tractor and those
Oh,
kind of
awesome.
bands, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. But anyway, this is a deadly and from what I've seen so far, a pretty slept on 12-inch. I know that I've had friends like Jonah kind of like shouted it out earlier in the year, and I had some other like some more of our mutual friends, but it's really strong, really, really strong, and I think it deserves a big shout. I think if this came out in a different, way, if actually, frankly, to play the underdog card, I think if this wasn't a Canadian band, I think there would be way more hype on it. And so yeah, I just think it's a great record and highly worth checking out. But it's definitely more like power pop, like that vibe. It definitely has like, for me, it's like a cross between like nods to like the first Jam record and like Buzzcocks, and it's fantastic.
That's awesome. I got to check that out because it was slept on by me until right now when I found
there's a lot of people like, I'm not trying to I think it's excellent. So yeah, worth checking out for sure.
I definitely Statues are an amazing band, so anything that falls in that lineage. Sudbury, it's also Sudbury's like, a place that I don't think very many people outside of Canada know about, but like what a amazing kind of musical legacy that place has had, certainly in the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years. For population, given the population.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And given like that crew of people deserve like a massive amount of credit. Like their overall discography of sort of the people related to that whole scene or whatever, and that whole crew is pretty strong. So worth checking.
Definitely. And I'm going to keep it Canada as well for my next pick, and I'm going to go with the Chastity Deathlust LP, which was put out by Captured Tracks. This is a band that I got to play with a couple years ago. I'm actually, now that I think about it, and I really didn't think about it until just literally now, I'm going on tour with them coming up in Europe. And but yeah, like I was just listening to this LP and I was thinking, man, if I still made mixtapes, this would be on a bunch of them. And they are fortunately getting a lot of love and acknowledgement for their great work. So yeah, but Deathlust is the LP by the band Chastity, and pick it up. It's a real, I don't know, gothy, but like 90s and rocky, but like definitely still has that kind of punk enough edge for me to love it. And love this album.
Nice. I've seen it, like like the cover of it. It looks great. I've not heard it myself, but I'm curious to hear it.
It's a great LP. It's a great LP.
This is my third, but again, this one stepped above some of the other stuff I've heard people talking about this year, and to me, this is like a deep head sort of thing. Not like, maybe not, but anyway, it's that band Stigmatism with their debut 7-inch, which is just pressed from their demo basically. But the actual record came out this year. It's on Beach Impediment. It's fantastic. It's just pure, like, kind of like whatever, Madball worship, essentially, Ball Destruction era. And it's just perfect. So that was and live they're incredible. So that was my, like, clear shout out, like, above the some of the others. That's my third pick.
Are they from Virginia? Beach area?
No, it's like New York. It's all New York based. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're all not New York based, but Spoilers in the band, and
this band's fucking incredible. I have not picked up that single yet. I was only putting LPs on this list. We could do a whole 7-inch list.
Oh, okay. And we're doing overall.
No. Chris,
stuff isn't LP.
You do what you need to do.
Yeah. Okay.
You do what you need to do, I think that band deserves a shout out. Definitely a band, and Mark Schubert's record label is somewhere where you can consistently find some of the best shit that's been happening. Like over years. He didn't he put out like some crazy obscure power pop record this year too?
I didn't. There was a few things or like a couple things that I didn't see. Like I didn't know what they were that he put out. It could be. The track record the last couple of years has been pretty, ridiculous in terms of being exceptional.
Absolutely.
So there's a few labels that are consistently like that, but yeah.
Yeah, we're
I'm
like
just
the
looking it
Jizza on Turned Out a Punk footnotes. Except we love labels, record labels.
I did not know what the hell you were going on with that. That's
You got that reference now, right?
yeah, I did. Yes, from the phenomenal LP Liquid Swords. Yes, the big track. I have that 12-inch, by the way. Real talk.
That was a single?
But yeah, he made a 12-inch of it. I don't know if it was like a proper single. It was definitely a DJ 12-inch for sure.
There's a video for that.
Yeah.
Check that out later on. Anyway, back to the time at hand. I guess my I feel like I do have 3 more picks, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so for a second there I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to cut one of my picks, but no. My next I'm gonna go with a band that I am gonna not be able to pronounce the name of very well, but Idiote Civilizatio. Which is on another amazing record label run by our friend Tom Ellis. And this is a LP that I don't know as much about. I just got it, checked it out, and it's just like raging hardcore. I believe this is their first 12-inch, and a band that, are you familiar with them at all, Chris?
Not, but you should also shout out what the label. So you said Tom's label, but it's Static Shock Records.
Oh, sorry, I'm not saying sorry. Static Shock Records, incredible label out of England, that has been putting out, great stuff for a long time. This band also has a 7-inch. There's some cool live videos of them as well, and it's just just raging, noisy hardcore, like very classic sounding, and perfect.
He put out the demo too of the Stigmatism as well, just to show how the taste cross the water is in keeping. Just as a heads up.
But, and also a label that put out a record that I could not shout out, but definitely one of the things I've listened to most this year because I'm kind of too closely involved in it. But he also put out that Raise Your Voice Choice comp, which I didn't play anything on it, didn't do anything towards that record other than be somewhat associated with it. But fuck. That record rages. Yeah,
he's done a bunch of great stuff. Like the label's great. You can't go wrong with. That's one of those labels you just like. If you're gambling, which isn't even a gamble, you just you're gonna hit. You're good.
Yeah, and this band is out of Berlin, Germany, a great LP. I really love this LP, and and you can pick it up yourself on Tom's label.
Yeah, Static Shock. I'm alum, by the way. You're not alumni. I'm alumni, so I can shout it out.
I think he did a fucked up thing.
No, I don't think so. Well, the newest one, but that comp, but I don't know about anything else.
Didn't he do something way back when? Like maybe even before it was called that?
Ooh, maybe. You may have me there.
I've known Tom for like ever.
Of course. Yeah.
Ever. Like first time we went over to England, I met him. He was one of my favorite people. Seen him in many different bands over the years too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, a great record. Not just talking about Tom. Also, a band that I got to see live.
Yes. So that was your third. My third. See, it gets tricky from here because there's some stuff. Even looking at that list of things he put out this year, stuff I haven't heard that I fear some might jump on my list ahead of one thing or another. But I'm gonna keep it in the raging sector. And because I don't believe I've shouted out, and perhaps I'm incorrect, but I feel like I haven't shouted out this band enough or before on the show all that much. And they put out a record this year, which coincidentally Tom also put out, being Static Shock. And it was put out here by Toxic State, I believe. But anyway, the band is Warthog. And they, to me, are one of the top tier groups, along with some others in recent years that have consistently, both live and on record, put out some, ragers. And they have a self-titled, I think this is their third, so let me just make sure here. It is their second self-titled 7-inch, but fourth 7-inch. And it is great. Or actually, I don't even know if it's a 7-inch. I think it's a 12-inch. No, it is a 7-inch. Pardon me. There you go.
I guess for my fourth album of the year, I'm going to pick a record that I just got recently. Heard about this band actually on this podcast on the Mark McCoy episode. And I don't know, I got this LP. At first I was like, do I love this or not? And then, now I've listened to it like a lot and I'm like, yeah, I love this. This is completely raging. And the band is City Hunter and the album is Deep Blood. And I believe they're out of Colorado. I'm, once again, not 100% versed in everything, but the record looks ridiculous. Like it's one of the coolest, most, I don't even coolest, but like certainly one of the most unique looking albums I've ever seen. And graphically, sonically, it just, is something that I keep coming back to over and over again.
I'm with you in the sense that this to me is the, and we have this previously, not you and I both off air, and then like with the collective of Turned Out a Punk, the Daves. And
we did that wasn't even on air. We had that as an off air discussion with the Daves.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like we've this is for me the conversation piece record of the year as far as the punk genre is concerned, because it's one that it not that it even divides opinions. I just think it's such a unique thing. I don't know what it is that captivates me with it, but I'm like you. Your description of it was perfect in the intro. At first, when you were just, I don't know, but I'm with you. I don't own it, but it's great, and I would concur. I think there are things I've liked certainly better this year, but this might be the best looking record this year. I'll say that for sure. It just looks insane. It looks like a crazy, sick, like 80s slasher movie. Like that's what the record looks like.
Dude, no.
Like, it's just phenomenal.
To me, it looks like if you took that kind of necro cage, Night Hunters, was that the Nighthawks? That Cage Side project that they did, like all those kind of like smut peddlers, that whole scene of like early 2000s, late 90s kind of rap stuff that was happening, and you took that aesthetic and you elevated it and did it the way that they were almost trying to do it. It felt like that's what this record looks like to me.
Okay, well, I don't have a great familiarity with that.
I would have thought that would be totally your bag. Records.
No, definitely not. We've discussed this before, but I have no beef with it. That was never my thing. But yeah, either way, looks incredible. All Youth Attack stuff looks incredible, though, to be fair. But yeah, this is one of those records that jumped out. I think the timing of this record, was right as well for the year. I think I've seen it shouted out on different sources as well. So I think the timing's right. He released some stuff this year I thought was really interesting, which I'm sort of wrestling with what. There's definitely one thing I kind of want to. I'm just worried that there's something I'm going to like more. I have like this 3-way tie for my last spot. Anyway.
I think they are, one of those bands that like, when you pull that album out of the sleeve and you put it on, like it better live up to it, like the aesthetic. And it does, like it sounds like, there's so many records in the 90s I remember opening and then putting it on and being like, oh, this is that? Like, it's almost like that meme. You know that meme that's going around right now where it's like how Kiss is advertised, and it's like, I think it's like Pennywise from It, and it's like how Kiss sounds, and it's like Ronald McDonald.
Yeah.
And like, like
I would disagree though. I think the first 2 records or whatever, 2 to 3, I can't remember. Anyway, great, but yeah, it's very fitting.
They sound great. Like I love those early Kiss records, but at the same time, like it doesn't sound like there's a fucking guy who's a demon in the band.
Oh no, I agree with you there. Yeah,
Black Sabbath is much more befitting of the Kiss imagery, like the sonic sound of Black Sabbath.
Yeah, agreed.
But this band lives up to the aesthetic sonically. Like when you hear it, you're like, oh shit, yeah, like this is what this should sound like.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah,
controversial. I know I was going to say a controversial record, like definitely something that, like my kind of like thing about going back to it, having to listen to it a couple times. I've heard other people tell me the same thing about it, and it's something that, like I eventually landed on the thing that like this thing rages, and I can get over my strong aversion to horror movies that I have as an adult, which is insane because that was like all my shit, as Chris can tell you, when I was younger. But and get into this LP.
I agree. I think it's just that one to me is the one that it's the conversation piece record of the year for sure. I can't think of anything else that's sort of captivated people the way it has. And to be fair, I guess it's come more toward the end of the year, but nonetheless, I think that also says something about it.
Yeah, no, I think its timing's perfect for it too.
Yeah. What are we at? So that was your fourth, I think. So I got to pick my last.
My fourth.
One. Last one is tough because I haven't sat with a lot of these records enough.
You can just quickly run through ones that could be in your last spot. Like, we don't have to go into too much details, but this way people can, if they decide, look them up.
Yeah.
And maybe if I get somehow struck with a lot of time in the next couple of weeks, I'll put together a playlist of all this stuff.
This is difficult, so this is sort of my end of the spectrum. So I have what I've now decided. I have two that are my tied for the fifth spot, which I kind of want to shout out, but there are a bunch of other records I wanted to shout out in addition. So I figure maybe we'll do that after we do our fifths really quick, if that's works better for you.
Yeah, that'd be totally.
Okay, so for my fifth spot, and this was really difficult because as I'm now scouring lists and looking at stuff that came out, there was a lot of stuff that could have easily made the fifth spot. But I boiled it down to two records, which I think are important for different reasons. So technically it's like I'm picking six, but I have to pick a fifth. I'm just welling over it. But anyway, there's a group. I'm terrible with pronunciation.
Just run through the other ones quickly that you want to have, because I'm gonna have some runners ups on mine.
Okay, so this is all punk centric runners up. Most of which just does need to be shouted out because I know it's really strong stuff. I just don't know in what order. So I have not heard the Blood Pressure 12-inch, but I guarantee that's a rager. Waste Management, Tried and True, that is excellent, and it didn't make my fifth or sixth spot, but it's great. The new Shipwrecked, We Are the Sword, 12-inch is also great. Another Youth Attack record, Cadaver Dog, Dying Breed's great. The new Tragedy, which sort of, to me, is the rebirth of Tragedy, dare I say. And it's the best record since Vengeance, easily. That deserves definitely a shout, but wasn't, for me, quite as strong. The new Shit record, of course, regionally speaking, is very important, in my opinion, and deserves... That easily should make this top five of mine. I'm just being difficult about it. But they're an excellent band, and that LP is very important, or 12-inch. And the Fucked Up LP, which should have made my list in many regards. And if I wasn't doing like a punk-centric list, it certainly would, but deserves a shout-out, obviously. And we talked about it on here, Dame. But anyway, my fifth spot, I feel like there's two bands. One, weirdly enough, is also a Youth Attack record by a band called Vile Gash, which is called Nightmare in a Damaged Brain. That record, to me, should be there, and it's sort of the perfect embodiment of sort of, I don't know, modern power violence, dare I use that phrasing for it, but I just think it's exceptional. But the record I think pips it is this band, I think they're from Colombia, called Muro. And so anyway, it's spelled M-U-R-O, and the record is called Attack Hardcore Punk, A-T-A-Q-U-E. And of course, I've butchered the pronunciation, I guarantee it, but live, this band just were, from everything I've seen, and the, pretty much consensus was that they dominated. And they played Not Dead Yet this year, and it was out of this world. So I just feel like for a lot of reasons that deserves the big shout out for my number 5 spot, but those were all the other contenders. And I'm trying to remember who put that out. Did Beach Impediment here also put out that Muro record, M-U-R-O?
God
so
damn.
Check it out.
Beach Impediment coming through again. That sounds fucking ridiculous. Yeah, I missed everything during Not Dead. I had planned and bought tickets to a bunch of stuff, and unfortunately had to change it due to some things that came up that weekend. But, shout out to Not Dead for coming through again. Like every year I'm like, how are they going to do this next year? And every year they find a way to put together a ridiculous bill of kind of like the top, like hardcore punk bands in the world. Like it's always incredible.
Agreed.
Okay, well let's I'm gonna have my this last pick. I love the new Super Chunk LP. I didn't make my list because I'm on the same label as the owner is in the band, so it felt like it was, the owners are in the band, so it felt like it'd be like, oh geez. But I love that band so much, and I sang on one of their records this year too, so it felt weird putting them on a list. But that band could have easily made my list. Candy, a band we toured with, put out a raging LP that I loved. Exploit Genius X put out a great LP that I loved. And, Culture Abuse, one of the greatest guests ever on this show, Dave, who's going to be coming back for a reappearance very early into the new year. I love their LP. But I got to give a shout out to an artist who I don't think he tours enough for people to really get how genius he is, or people understand like how genius he is, because he's like someone like a Jonah that does many, many other records. Oh yeah. Also the Boss 7-inch could be on my list too. I think that record's amazing.
Yeah. I was going to shout that out too, but I had so much, but yeah, that Boss Steel Box 7-inch is incredible.
But I think this Tony Molina Kill the Lights LP. I think Tony Molina is one of those, like Jonah, like there's a lot of people, I'm shouting at Jonah, but there's a lot of people that are like this, but like can work in so many different styles, so many different genres. And it's just like a fan of music, specifically punk music, and creates some unbelievable stuff. And Tony Molina, his like self-titled project that he does, is like, I don't know, like if Dinosaur Jr. was a power pop band, how it could, I don't know, like sonically how to put it. That might be a little limiting, but he writes great punk, songs that once again would be perfect on any mixtape. And yeah, I strongly recommend checking out Tony Molina's stuff. He also did like a bunch of other bands this year too, and has done like over the years, like tons of other stuff dating back, years. I've known this guy since he was a little kid, and someone else that I'm having on the show very soon into the new year.
Yeah, I get you, dude. I haven't heard, so I don't know what to say about it. But yeah, you've spoken to me about it before, so I know how much you praise or it is in high praise in your books, certainly.
Absolutely. Well, that is it for those records. There's tons more that I've forgotten about, I'm sure. And Chris, you're the same way, and that's some of the stuff that should be on there. Let's move on to our favorite episodes of the year.
Yeah, this was
we've got some categories.
This was good. It was difficult. Yeah, it was very difficult to boil down some of this.
Yeah, because we've got some categories this year. This year, the categories are as follows. We are going to do the most surprising punk of the year, like the guests that came on the show that, because these are surprises to me most of the time. Like some of these people I just hear about, reach out, they come on, or it could be like a surprising moment on the show. Biggest surprise of the year. I think we have episode most of need of a part 2, some episode where maybe something wasn't asked that should have been asked. I know there's certainly episodes that I finish and I'm like, God damn it, why did I not ask this person about this? And then I guess the final one would be, the second and last one, best episode of the year category. And then finally, we're going to end it with the last category, person we want to most see on the show next year. Let's begin with that first category that I mentioned, which is going to be the most surprising guest of the year or surprising moment of the year.
Yeah, I should have assumed you would go there. This was the most difficult one for me because I didn't mention this off air because I wanted to talk about this on air. I'm going to go so far as to say, and this is certainly absolutely no shade to any previous years or certainly any previous guests, but when I actually went through the rundown of this year, as we have done on the last sort of footnote party episode or whatever. This may have been pound for pound the strongest year in my opinion. You have a lot of heavy hitter guests this year, and so it was very, very difficult to like I'm just going through and I'm trying to pick things and I'm like, man, I'm not picking this or that. Like it just, that's how strong this year was. So kudos to you and certainly Tristan.
I was going to say, I think kudos to Tristan. I think definitely kudos to Tristan. Like he was definitely doing this kind of work last year, but because I was doing the TV show, I was away a lot. And a lot of the time it was just kind of me throwing stuff together. And no disrespect to last year's guests at all, because there were some amazing shows last year. But this year it's a lot of like people I've always wanted to talk to, like dream type people on the show.
Yeah, and you had a number of like, so I don't mean to gush too much. It needs to be stated because as I say things, I'm like, I cannot believe I'm not naming some of the guests you've had, because there's some insane guests this year that honestly did not make my lists, and it's crazy. But okay, so biggest surprise. This was the hardest one for me because there was a variety of angles on this category for me. Um, there was three. I isolated 4 episodes in particular. I'm not going to shout them all out. I'm just trying to well over in order of importance. What one I think jumps out? It's down to two. I guess I will say it's down to two for me that were the most surprising of the year. Being that I was most surprised and impressed not only with their journey, but how deep they were in terms of like knowledge and how great the episodes were. Which was the is it David Pajo?
Yeah.
I don't. David Pajo and then Blake Schwarzenbach. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. The Jawbreaker dude.
Yep.
So those two were the two. I haven't listened to the Blake one, and so like the Pajo one, I feel was like more recent. So that was more fresh in my brain, and the kind of the Danzig content in that alone is so unbelievable.
Yeah.
But the Blake episode's so good from what I remember. So I'm going to have to say Pajo just because it's fresher in my mind, and I feel maybe that made a bigger impact as to why I can remember it so vividly. So yeah, the Pajo one for me, which is episode... Good Lord, I should probably have queued that up first.
Pajo was when it was episode 178.
178. Yeah, so I highly recommend listening to that, of course, from Slint and Tortoise and a variety of other things, which those two groups alone, like, you know, but the amount of punk content in that, like, is no joke, and a lot of deep head stuff too, which I love. So that was my difficultly chosen surprise episode and or thing of the year.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I think that David Pajo Dwid, like the fact that their stories intersect in Louisville was the thing that was like one of those moments where I was like, God damn it, that's why we do this thing.
Yep.
Man, okay, I'm kind of in the same place you are. There's like a lot of stuff that I, feels like this happened this year, like a lot of surprising ones. Cedric from At the Drive-In, being on tour with Feist with Beto O'Rourke in Canada, like that blew my mind. That actually happened at some point.
Yeah.
The stuff in Jerry A's part 2 was just mind blowing. No, gosh, mind blowing. Jesse Brown coming on the show. And yeah, that was like and the stuff that you talked about in that episode and influences on him that he talked about in that episode was very shocking and stuff for me. I think Thurston Moore, for me, it's going to come down to 2 like you. I think between me, it's Thurston Moore, which anyone that's kind of close to me and fucked up knows that probably didn't seem very likely that was ever going to happen. So the fact that it did happen, and then also the fact that it was just so fucking awesome to get to talk to him and get to hear just like his relationship to hardcore, like all this kind of stuff that, I knew there was, but to get it was just like awesome.
I agree.
But
so that's your biggest surprise? Or
no, that's my biggest surprise guess. But I think my biggest surprise was Michael Ian Black coming on the show.
Yeah. That was one that I passed over. I'm with you. I passed over it, but the whole time what you're about to say, I thought about this too, but there's so much other stuff. Like that's how crazy this year was.
Yeah. The Michael Ian Black episode was just I kind of knew that he was into punk just from like the little things he had referenced and stuff like that. But, I didn't know how deep it went. Didn't know if there was going to be anything that came out of it. Beyond I'm a fan. Like I'm just like a fan of maybe not what he writes on social media all the time, but I'm definitely a fan of him as a comedian, and and I'm certainly a fan of him over the years and stuff that I enjoy watching. So to find out that he was in a band with Tim Shaw from Ensign was fucking incredible.
Yes, that's episode 158 as well, by the way, for people who are following along.
158 is the one where it really does prove that punk connects everything. And also, it kind of implies that he kind of also implies in that episode that Jonathan Stewart's kind of a poser.
I like that you used his full first name, by the way. But go on.
Why did you call him John Stewart? I was just saying, like, he kind of like is like, yeah, I never really saw him around.
Well, hey, future guest, hopefully. So
yeah, well, he can
too soon.
Take him to task on that, John. Anytime you want, dude. Just like pro wrestling, John Stewart and I can talk pro wrestling, and we can talk our mutual love of the Clash.
Oh yeah,
his favorite band.
I'm the defender of the Clash in this show.
I like the Clash too. I like the Clash too. Also, Peter Paret, like coming on the show too, was a big surprise and something that turned out to be really awesome. But let's get on to the next one, Chris. What do you think?
What's the category? What are we doing here?
The next category that we're going to do is who should be coming back for a part 2? Like, who are we in desperate need to hear more from? Or is there a particular story that you feel I failed to bring up, or something that didn't come up that should be brought up, and hence we need a part 2 ASAP?
Most guests, I think, did. I chose it on the kind of like based on what we were talking about with the stuff like from the last category a bit. So mine was, and I already mentioned, was the Blake Schwarzenbach. I just think a part 2 because that whole story was so epic, and I don't think you even really got terribly far into it, if I remember correctly.
No.
So, yeah, that for me is part 2.
Yeah, that would be amazing to have him back for part 2. Jack Black, I'd love to have back on so I can confront him with the evidence that we uncovered that he was actually at a Bad Religion show. And
yes.
And then finally confirm that it is indeed him moshing to visual discrimination, which would be an amazing thing to be able to confirm. I think also Barry Hensler. I didn't ask him about Lars sitting in the bass drum, which...
well, there's many things that could be stated about the about that episode. Yeah, you have a lot more to talk about.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot more to talk about with Barry. So that is a one in desperate need of a part 2 as well. Jerry A for a part 3 would be great. There's lots. Mm-hmm. There's lots of stuff that could be done in a part 2. But yeah, I think that would be. I think if I'm going to go with my one that I'm thinking, I definitely want to do a part 2 ASAP for, and that's the Thurston Moore episode, because there's just so much stuff to talk to him about, like the SST stuff. When like, obviously, maybe you can't talk about the legal side of that thing, but just like what it was like to be on that label at that time when you have, the future of indie rock right there, just happen.
Yeah.
But that's my one that's in desperate need of a part 2. So Chris, episode of the year.
So episode of the year, and the reason why I didn't pick this for that last category is because to me it's a no-brainer. It's the Thurston Moore episode. So I didn't want to, like, the Thurston Moore episode could be in almost every category, but for me, that's my episode of the year, bar none. Again, no disrespect. You had a lot of crazy good episodes this year, actually, and it was difficult to not take some people. Like, thinking you got some heavy hitters this year that I just, and their episodes are all phenomenal, but Thurston's is just so crazy, like what's covered and the years and just everything about it. So yeah, for sure.
I think for me, if I'm going to have to pick a number one, like there's been a lot, having Sami Zayn on the show was a huge one for me, Chris. Like I can't understate, I can't overstate how important that was to have that episode now. In the 100% catalog.
Not as good as Thurston Moore though. Not any day of the weekend.
I agree. Thurston Moore is right up there. Jesse Michaels, like I never ever thought I'd get a chance to talk to Jesse Michaels. So I'm really stoked that happened finally. But for me, episode of the year is the Jack Black episode because I outwitted him. I outlasted him.
Okay.
And I got him to admit that he was indeed a punk rock kid at some point in his life.
I see what you're saying, because you'd whittle them down. Yeah, I see.
I'd beat him. You know, he told me he had lied straight to my face. He said, "No, I wasn't. No, not me." And then I, you know, through years of, you know, just being a nerd, just being into this music, gathered up enough evidence, stuff I learned doing this podcast, internet sleuthing, what have you, and presented my case before him. And we won. We won, Chris.
Nice. All right. And so what was that? That was your episode of the year with Jack Black. Okay. Yep.
That was my episode of the year. And so now we are going to go into who would you like to see next year on the show?
Well, there's a number of guests. I always say things to you, and your brother always says things to you too. But for me, I was trying to think of like real kind of what I feel are like heavy hitter guests, because I think you got a number of them this year, so I feel like that's going to keep rolling, hopefully. But for me, for a variety of reasons relating to some of the things we discussed today and other episodes even, Lydia Lunch is my dream guest of 2019.
Yeah, that would be an amazing guest. I didn't even think about going there.
My main one, actually, and that came to me on the back of, because I first wrote down Joel Coleman, and then I still love that, and I hope it happens. But I thought, you know what, the Joel Coleman one would be exceptional, but I was thinking of like that kind of New York or whatever, New York area centric stuff, and then it just immediately was like, yeah, no, that one is, you know, so yeah.
Yeah, she would be an incredible person to talk to about stuff. And like, as Thurston says, like someone who predates punk, you know, like someone who was there for the glam stuff, someone who, and someone who scared the punks, which,
yes,
which is cool. I would love to have her on. I would be honored to have her on. I was going to say, someone I learned recently might have some punk connection, Mimi Driver.
Really? Okay.
Mini Driver has some punk connection apparently. So that is someone that I really hope works out at some point in the near future. But I think my number one, if I was going to have to pick a number one for who I want to have on next year, and by God, maybe we're going to make it happen. I don't know. I'm just talking about my ass on this, but CM Punk.
Of course, a wrestler. Yep. Okay.
Gotta happen, Chris. Gotta happen. You know, the punk wrestling connection is real. It's real. And, you know, we got to talk about a guy who, let's be realistic, you know, save maybe Avril Lavigne, has gotten straight edge and straight edge culture out to more people than anyone ever.
Yeah, it's difficult to argue, I suppose. Yeah.
You know, like
I don't think about it, but yeah, I don't know a great deal about him because I don't follow wrestling, so I didn't see him as a wrestler at all, so I don't know how to contextualize that. I know we like the same hockey team. That's cool.
Yep, and millions and millions of kids every week, millions and millions of adults too, tune in from around the world.
I was going to say. Quite
you know,
a bit
like
of
before.
adults.
Well, you know, the before time, like, you know, he was actually like the thing that I really think the person I really think you kind of have to give credit to for the wrestling resurgence renaissance that's happening right now.
Is CM Punk, you're saying?
CM Punk, yeah, CM Punk. And I think like it's a guy who made wrestling cool. And, you know, the company he's in sometimes resists that. And, you know, certainly he left that company. So, you know, it'd be great to talk to him. Not about that. I'm sure he's not legally allowed to talk about that side of his life. Just to talk about music, you know. I heard he used to bounce at the Fireside Bowl.
Huh.
I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. You know, but it'd be someone I would love to talk to. So that's that's the goal this year. The dream. The dream is to find a way to get CM Punk on Turned Out a Punk.
One thing I want to shout out real quick to interject is there was a couple other big surprises. But you nailed the Jesse Michaels one was on my contending. And the other one I think deserves a big shout out is because it's a great episode and it's kind of thick with early deep head sort of stuff, is the Jim Cuddy episode.
Yeah, that was cool. Like there's stuff that Jim Cuddy talks about in that episode that I never thought I'd get to talk to Jim Cuddy about.
Yeah, and I mean it's certainly, if you're Canadian, certainly, and so there's an appeal there. So people who may not get as much out of it as you and I, maybe, but there's some things in there that I think are people might look over if you don't listen to every episode. So I'd highly recommend paying attention to that, episode 153.
I would love to sit down with Jim Cuddy one time, and just with like a turntable and all my Toronto 45s and some New York 45s, and like just like play punk records with him, like everything that he talks about, just like play, you know. Yeah, it'd be a real fun thing because he feels like someone that, you know, it'd be really fun to sit around and listen to records with.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing is, in everything we've discussed, in my list, I did not even mention. Let me just go through here. This is how vibrant your year was. We did not even mention Eric Davidson up to this point.
Oh yeah,
which was a crazy episode. We did not really mention much about Dwid. That episode's incredible. We did not mention. There was another huge one. John Reese. We did
Chris
not
number
even
two.
mention. Yeah, but those, like, that's how many. I mean, like, and another one that was like one of my
Jerry A. Part
episodes.
1 was this year. I thought that was last year.
Yeah, no, you did both. So for me, it was tied.
Shit.
I think I kind of like 2 better, but 1 is incredible, obviously. But the Patty, if I'm saying it right, is it Patty Schmel or Patty Schemmel?
Yeah.
Anyway, her episode was great too. So that there was big ones this year.
Dude,
really
yeah,
big
one of my low-key surprises of the year that I forgot was the Greg Anderson from Sun story.
Yeah, just all of it. It's, you know, and you actually did Drew Carolan, I think I'm saying that right, at the end of literally almost the last day of last year.
Yeah.
So even that, to me, kind of applies, but yeah, a whole bunch.
Anyway, Chris, my dog's howling to go out now. So that's it, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Chris. And we will see you in the new year.